Well, it looked like Kathy has released a statement. The WNBA rules is at the forefront. And as for my understanding, this freedom of motion thing is already a Caitlin Clark rule. We got former players saying that Caitlin Clark need to wrap herself in bubble wrap before she hit the court. This whole thing is getting out of hand at this point, bro. But we finna dive into this whole thing. So the Commissioner Cup was last night, and Kathy actually refused to speak to the media.
The WNBA has been forced into a corner. The league's leadership, led by Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, finds itself scrambling, pushed to the brink by a phenomenon it cannot control and a player it doesn't know how to handle. The freedom of movement rule, a directive whispered to be the Caitlin Clark rule, has failed to temper the storm. Instead, it has ignited a firestorm of controversy, pitting the league's old guard against its new once-in-a-generation superstar. Caitlin Clark is being assaulted on the court night in and night out. The physicality directed at her is not just the typical rookie hazing. It is a targeted, relentless barrage of hard fouls, off-ball shoves, and tactical intimidation. The league, from its referees to its top brass, appears paralyzed, refusing to challenge dangerous plays or protect its biggest asset. This silence is deafening. The narrative is no longer about basketball. It's about survival, respect, and a deeply ingrained resentment from veteran players who feel that the league they built for 30 years is being handed over to a golden girl from Iowa. The commissioner refusing to speak to the media sends a clear signal. This league does not know how to lead the Caitlin Clark era. There is a deep systemic failure at the top, and it is leading to a fractured, toxic environment where the lines between competitive fire and outright assault have become dangerously blurred.
Perfect timing. When you don't set the tone at the top with ethics, with values, with your leadership, then as in Christie's statement comes, you can let people run amok. Mm-hmm. So Kathy does not have a relationship where she can pick up the phone, should have picked up the phone, whether it's AT.
The fallout from this crisis is immediate and exposes a leadership void that threatens to tear the league apart. The Clark era was supposed to be a rising tide that lifts all boats, bringing unprecedented viewership, revenue, and attention. Instead, it has become a battleground for generational and cultural conflict, exposing the WNBA's lack of infrastructure to handle its new superstar. Caitlin Clark's situation is made infinitely worse by the freedom of movement rule. Intended to increase scoring and flow, this rule has now backfired spectacularly on Clark. While it theoretically prevents defenders from impeding her movement, the whistle is not protecting Caitlin Clark from the physical violence off the ball. Instead, Clark is being called for offensive fouls when she pushes off to create the space she needs to operate. This is the cruel irony of the new rules. The player they were designed to protect is now the one being penalized. The league has effectively tied Caitlin Clark's hands while allowing defenders to assault her body. This is not just a tactical oversight, it is a profound failure of leadership. The Caitlin Clark rule is actively harming Caitlin Clark. This situation is forcing head coaches like Stephanie White into impossible, no-win situations. White is damned if she defends Clark, appearing to coddle the rookie, and damned if she doesn't, looking weak and indifferent to her players' safety. Clark is not just fighting the opposing team, she is fighting a league structure that is failing to protect her, leaving her isolated and vulnerable. The tension is palpable, and the culture of the WNBA is paying the price. The Caitlin Clark assaults are not isolated incidents, they are a systemic symptom of a league unprepared for the seismic shift Clark has brought.
100%. I also want to push back on the narrative from some corners of the media of the new faces in the media spaces calling for special protections and rules for Caitlin Clark.
I have not seen them.
There already was one rule for her, was it not? The you can't touch anybody, and then it backfired because freedom of movement was it quote unquote not for Caitlin, and now she can't defend, so she's sitting on the bench.
To understand the unique pressure on Caitlin Clark, one must look at the psychology of the players opposing her. The WNBA's old guard, players who endured years of relative anonymity, see Clark as an intruder who has been given everything they fought for. Her overnight fame, massive endorsement deals, and the league's rule changes in her favor have created a cauldron of resentment. The treatment of Caitlin Clark exposes a stark double standard. We have seen veteran enforcers celebrated for their aggression, applauded for being the enforcer, and seeing their social media followings explode after taking out the opposition's star player. The response to Clark being targeted, however, is met with a shrug. The question must be asked: would the league and its fans tolerate this level of physical assault on any other player? If a star guard like Jewel Lloyd or Eric Augenboyle were being systematically targeted with the same ferocity, the narrative would be drastically different. The silence protecting Clark's aggressors screams volumes about the undercurrent of animosity directed at the Indiana Fever rookie. Caitlin Clark is not just a basketball player, she is a symbol. Her success represents the future of the WNBA, a future that some veteran players resent. Clark's brand is now inextricably linked to this conflict, and her ability to navigate this hostile environment will define not just her career, but the WNBA's future. The league is trying to have it both ways: capitalize on Clark's stardom while failing to provide the league-wide leadership needed to ensure she survives the Caitlin Clark assaults that are now a nightly spectacle.
But what I like to do sometimes to better understand things is like flip the script and like put shoes on other feet. And if that happened to another player or any other player, like, I mean, what would that look and sound like? Like, I don't know.
We saw that. We saw that when Sophie Cunningham took JC Sheldon's head off. We saw it.
Okay. We did
We
see that.
saw T-shirts being made in support of Sophie being the enforcer. We saw her social media.
The financial and franchise-altering impact of the Caitlin Clark situation is now undeniable. Clark's presence is the single biggest driver of revenue the WNBA has ever seen. If the league continues to fail to protect Caitlin Clark, it risks alienating an entire generation of new fans who came to watch her. The future of the league is now inextricably tied to the future of Caitlin Clark. The Caitlin Clark assaults are not just a basketball problem, they are a business problem of the highest order. The WNBA cannot afford to lose its biggest star to injury or frustration. Clark is must-see TV, and her potential exit from the league would be catastrophic. The league's handling of the officiating, which has not met the level and caliber of athletes in front of them, is a ticking time bomb. If the officiating continues to fail, if the commissioner continues to hide, and if Caitlin Clark continues to be battered and bruised, the WNBA will face a revolt from its own fanbase. The potential for Clark to start her own league is not just a threat, it's a viable alternative in a sports landscape hungry for authentic basketball. The commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, must act now. The statement she released is just a piece of paper. What Clark needs and what the league needs is a strong physical and verbal presence from the top, a clear signal that the Caitlin Clark assaults will no longer be tolerated. Her future and the league's future depends on it. The WNBA is at a crossroads. It can either embrace the Caitlin Clark era with the leadership and protection it demands, or it can allow the Caitlin Clark assaults to continue, risking the alienation of its new star and its new fans. The league must decide if it wants to be defined by its petty jealousies or its future potential. Clark is the greatest thing to happen to the WNBA, but the treatment she's receiving is the worst. The narrative that this has nothing to do with basketball is a lie. It has everything to do with who the league values and who it is willing to protect. So I leave you with this question. Is the WNBA willing to sacrifice Caitlin Clark to protect the egos of its old guard, or will it finally step up and protect the future of the game?